Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 17 Days of Sustainability panel discussion by Ideagen. I'm Peggy Pelonis, president of ACS Athens in Athens, Greece, and chair of the Athens Ideagen component. Once again, it's a pleasure to be joining you as we convene with leaders across the world to raise awareness about the world's most vexing issues and share stories of those whose mission is to accelerate the goal towards a sustainable world. Do you ever wonder what the world would be like without people such as those on our panel today who work tirelessly to make sure that life and living on the planet improves daily? Well, today we have with us a group of people from Northern Illinois University connected with the College of Business within the university. So, what's the big deal about one more business program taught at a university? Well, this particular business program has built within an ethics program called Belief. Belief stands for Building Ethical Leaders with an Integrated Ethics Framework. Joining us today are Balaji Rajagopalan, Dean of the College of Business, Amy Buhrow, Senior Director of Strategy, and Tera Lima, a graduate of the program and Associate Account Representative for CDW. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. And I just want to start right away because I know, Balaji, you need to be on your way with so many commitments that you have at the college. But Balaji, in 2006, your Belief program was named a model program by the Association to Advance College and Schools of Business. Can you tell us what makes the program so special and how did it come to be?
Well, thank you, Peggy. Thank you for this opportunity. We are tremendously proud of the fact that we were one of the leaders in building a program, as you rightly described, building ethical leaders using an integrated ethics framework. It came about many years back, as you pointed out, that resulted from discussions, both internal as well as external partners, on the value of having training in the ethics space if we are to build great leaders of tomorrow. Two of our faculty, Dr. Terry Bishop and Dr. Pam Smith, were pioneers in building this program in conversations both with the expertise that was available within the college, but more importantly, engaging with the partners externally. As we built the program, it became very clear to everyone that this is rather unique in the sense that this framework and this kind of engaging students in understanding ethical dilemmas and how to respond to it. The framework itself is based upon a 7-step process, is not done across business colleges in the country in a focused manner the way that this is designed. The program has delivered exceptional results, as you will hear more from our colleague here, and how that is playing out in the lives of our students, as you will hear from one of our graduates. So we are tremendously proud that the integrated framework that came about as a result of conversations both internally and externally has delivered tremendous value for our students. And let me close by saying that as we look to building leaders of tomorrow, the ability of the leaders to deal with ethical dilemmas and respond to them will be the cornerstone of building great leaders. And our Belief program does just that very well. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for all that. Really wonderful description. And I know you need to go, Balaji, so I'm going to just turn right over to Amy right now. And, Amy, this is a question that has been on my mind for a while. And I know that others have asked this question. Is ethical behavior and business an oxymoron? Can one learn to navigate ethical challenges effectively and still succeed in such a competitive world?
What a great question, Peggy. And thank you for asking, and thank you for having us as part of this conversation. Do ethical behavior and business contradict one another? You know, I really don't believe so. And given the challenges our world is facing right now, I don't think we can afford to have them contradict one another. Business at its core is about capturing value for a good or a service. And that transaction, it could be between an organization and a consumer, an organization and its employees, organizations and its vendors. And if those organizations want to be sustainable, those transactions really have to be built on trust and confidence that each party is doing the right thing. And that's not to say that it's not complicated, because individuals are really at the center of each of those transactions. And individuals are coming to those transactions with unique lived experiences that have formed their values and their morals. And the right thing isn't always unanimous. It can be really messy. So at the NIU College of Business, we have focused on the research that shows that most individuals want to do the right thing. We also believe that good people can make bad decisions given the right combination of motivation and opportunity and their ability to rationalize those decisions. So we believe it's really critical, and it is possible for individuals to learn how to identify ethical dilemmas, think about them holistically, and then act in ways that put voice to their values. And this takes iteration through practice and in a safe and supportive environment. And that's how we are building moral courage. And that is really what our Northern Illinois University Belief Program is all about.
That's wow. Okay. And so I want to stay with a little bit with what you said earlier, that your program abides by the fundamental belief that people want to do good. You must believe that if you develop this program. So can you tell us about that a little bit more, and how can people give voice to their values without being seen as soft in the business world?
Sure. Just like a surgeon has to practice all of those procedures over and over again so that it becomes second nature, we think people need to exercise their ethical decision making over and over again so that they can develop scripts, so they can think about the dilemmas that they will face. It's not if, it's when they face an ethical dilemma, so that they have a response to it. You know, it's that muscle memory of saying, this is making me feel a little uncomfortable. Let me think through this. Let me slow it down and think about it. So I'm not making a decision in haste. Let me think about what's personally at stake, so I can think about what those unintended consequences of my decision might be. And that is how we are helping them develop the courage, that moral courage, to become an ethical leader. At the College of Business, we weave these ethical conversations into classes across the curriculum. It's not just one class our students take. They are getting exposure to ethical dilemmas within the context of their disciplines throughout their entire degree program. We have a handbook that we give them that goes through all of the underpinnings of our belief program. And then we also give them a decision-making guide, a card that has our 7-step process that Dean Balaji referred to, and really goes through all of those decision-making steps, the most important being identifying 3 to 5 actions and applying our tests to those. Once they have gone through that multiple times, they are becoming more comfortable with speaking up and developing that moral courage. So they're not coming off as soft or afraid of coming off as soft in bringing up, hey, are you sure we should be doing that? We should slow down and we should think about it.
So what you're saying is that really you're helping people go deep within themselves and figure it out and work out the conflict, if there's any conflict or question within them, but you're actually providing the steps. And sometimes, going through the steps, even if in the beginning it seems kind of mechanical, potentially gets people to really think about what's going on inside of them and understand that conflict better. That's really
yeah, absolutely. Our 7-step guide is essentially a problem-solving framework. And when our students get to that step of identifying 3 to 5 actions, we ask them to apply 12 different tests to each of those actions. And those tests are the harm test. Does this option harm anyone? The legality test. Is it legal? Are there laws against this? The precedent. Am I setting a precedent so that I will have to do this again? The publicity test. How would I feel if this were on the front page of the newspaper? The defensibility test. Could I defend this decision before Congress or even in my local court? The mom or dad test, or trusted adult. How would that trusted adult feel about me if they knew that I took this action? The reversibility or golden rule test. How would I feel if this were done to me? The virtues test. What would I become if I chose this option? The professional test. What would those in my professions or that professional ethics committee say about this? The peer or colleague test. What would my colleagues have to say if I made this decision? And then the organization test. Does it go against the values, those articulated values of my company or organization? And then probably the most important test, how does this make me feel?
Yeah.
And those 12 tests really help people look at whatever that ethical dilemma is from a 360 point of view, a very holistic point of view, so they can determine what the right course of action is. You know, there's hardly ever a binary right and wrong. There's a lot of gray in the middle. And those 12 tests are designed to help you understand that gray.
Yeah, and I think it sounds to me like these are questions that we should be asking about, you know, not just business, but anything in our lives.
Right.
So that's wonderful. Thank you. So I want to go to Tera for a minute. And Tera, you're a graduate of the program, and you're now participating in the world of business. Now, have you ever had an ethical dilemma, and how did you go about resolving this as a result of the education that you had through the program?
Yes, and thank you for having me. Just a little bit of background. I was part of the program for 4 years, the BELIEF program, specifically within the LEAD organization, which is a student organization at NIU standing for Leaders in Ethics and Academic Discipline. This program helped me extremely, and just to preface, through CDW, I am still in training, so I don't have too much of background in facing one of these ethical dilemmas, but I have continued my learning in ethics, and it's super awesome to have that background. But definitely sales in particular is a very competitive space, and it's really easy to set unrealistic goals for yourself when you're trying to hit your quota each and every month. And not relating this back to CDW, again, I haven't faced real customers yet, but through sales, every lead, prospect, and customer is expected to be treated with respect, fairness, and honesty and integrity. So I think ethics is huge when doing that. My main job as a seller is to build long-term relationships, and without being ethical and being honest and loyal to my customers, I'm unable to do my job. So I think it's very important that I learned these tasks early on. Some of these examples of unethical scenarios that you can face in the sales world is providing your customers false data. So if you're just trying to make the sale before the end of the month, you could be providing false information about the product you're selling, false information about payment methods, or anything like that. Over-promising. I mean, even in my experience in customer service, we were always told to under-promise and over-deliver. So that's something that you can definitely face an ethical situation if you're over-promising for something that you can't actually do. And using data incorrectly. I know in today's world, social media is huge, and it has a huge presence in every single person's life. You can't go posting on Facebook about this huge deal that you made in the sales world, or go posting on LinkedIn about certain details of the company that are confidential. So that's some of the things that many sales representatives face, and what I've been warned about prior to going into the business world, especially through some of the sales classes I took at NIU. I think the program itself provided me some of the options to have resources. And I think that's huge in the business world, just because if you know those resources, every single professor, every single faculty member they all tell you if you're facing these ethical dilemmas, you have someone to reach out to. So I think that's huge in the program, and I think that helped me in my education a lot. And especially with learning ethics in specific classes, it gave me the ability to bring some of those fundamentals forward into my career as well.
So having a really strong support system that you can turn to and somebody that, can help you get through that process is really important. So Tara, I know that, in the business world, we quote Warren Buffett a lot, but he refers to what he calls dangerous in the world of business, and that is the five little words that says that everyone else is doing it. Have you ever encountered or heard of people in your profession or in your work or in the surrounding work that kind of have that in their minds, and how did you deal with this?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's always something that comes up too. I mean, especially in the university, obviously there's people that'll be passing around tests. There's people that are using other people for their work so they can do their homework. And that's something that becomes an ethical issue. And I think that everyone else is doing it kind of gives those people the courage to do it, even though it's wrong. And so even in the business world too, I mean, if you don't make your quota by the end of the month, you're pressured, you're put under a spotlight to make that quota. And so everyone else is doing it, doesn't sound so bad. So I think that I personally haven't encountered that, but I think that dealing with that, you can remind yourself of your core values. And I look back to my education too. I mean, the Belief program it's been detrimental to where I'm at right now in terms of the people I've met, the people that I surround myself with, the environment, because that's huge in the sales world and in ethics. So I think dealing with it, just finding the right resources. And I know today in the business world, every single organization has an ethics or a conduct of ethics, or they have a book of ethics. And you have those anonymous hotlines that you can tell someone about it. So I think that's something that is very, very important in dealing with those situations.
Yeah. And the sustainability and ethics kind of go hand in hand. If we want to create a sustainable world, we really have to think about doing it in the right way. So I'm going to go back a minute to Amy. Amy, in your program, in the Belief program, you refer to a dangerous combination of motivation, opportunity, and rationalization. Can you just say a little bit more about that? I mean, I don't think that motivation and opportunity are such bad words. Rationalization, maybe that combination makes it dangerous.
Sure, you're absolutely right. Motivation and opportunity on their own are not negative concepts. Motivation is something that is really grounded in need or pressure. And that motivation could be for more money, for more material possessions, for being in the spotlight, more likes, more visibility. And again, motivation by itself isn't bad. It's how it's fulfilled that can cause the issues. And that's the same with opportunity. It isn't inherently bad. Those are the open doors that can help us get closer to achieving our goals. It's when rationalization comes in that problems occur. And rationalization is our core consciousness trying to really make us feel better about the decisions that we're making, especially when those decisions don't seem right. So if you think about it as a Venn diagram with the three overlapping circles, it's that part in the middle where all three overlap that cause the problems. It's when your inner voice is saying, oh, it's just this once. Everyone else is doing it. I was just doing what I was told. No one will get hurt. I deserve this, or maybe the system is unfair, so I'm going to do this. That's when those triggers need to go off in your head and say, I need to slow down. I need to think through what's going on. We tell our students that when they find themselves rationalizing a decision, it's time to really pause and work through our decision-making framework and think about what is that ethical dilemma? What are the facts? who are the stakeholders? Who could get hurt? Who could benefit from this? What are those relevant factors that are important to note? Coming up with those 3 to 5 alternatives I mentioned earlier, and then working those 12 tests on those alternatives, and then making a choice and really thinking about the unintended consequences. And with that choice you made, are you still making rationalizations?
Yeah. Along those lines, I mean, we'll ask both of you this question. I know you mentioned it earlier. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has dilemmas. People get into situations sometimes where, things could happen. Do you believe that good people make bad decisions? And how can this be avoided?
I can go first, Tera, if you want me to. I think good people make bad decisions every day. And I think the hard thing about that is making sure that the bad decisions don't get compounded. And that's where the slippery slope comes in. I might do something just a little bit on the edge, and if there are no consequences, I might push that envelope a little bit further. So helping people really think through, okay, this makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I have to pause. I really have to think through this and make sure that I'm not intentionally going down a path that I will not be able to handle the personal consequences for. When I say people make bad decisions every day, sometimes it's because they're made in haste and you aren't stopping to think about those. So practicing and being part of the role plays that Tera was part of in our professional selling program, having that muscle memory per se to work through those dilemmas when they come up is really important.
Yes. Sorry, I completely agree, Amy. I think that many good people will make bad decisions, and I think a lot of it comes down to pressure. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're going to try way harder and do whatever is possible to make it to that end and get that paycheck that you can live off of a little bit further. I think sometimes it stems from above to an organization, whether it's culture, environment, or your boss is pressuring you to do something that you don't want to do, or you just need that little extra cash. I think to avoid those dilemmas, something that you need to focus on, especially with me coming out of college, is finding the good fit within a company. Because if you don't find that good fit and you don't feel like you belong there, you're more likely to be pressured to do something you don't want to do. And I know a friend of mine, she's working within the accounting industry, and she doesn't see some stuff that happens behind closed doors, and she feels awful about it. And something that helped her is going to those resources, figuring out what she can do to assess the situation and see what next steps look like. And eventually, if she doesn't feel like she belongs, she doesn't have to call it out, but she can leave the company because that'll save her reputation and the company's reputation as well.
Very interesting. I coming from the K-12 environment, I always think about education in phases, and though everything is interrelated, you have the K-12 environment where I think, develop a lot of the mindsets that follow people for the rest of their lives, and then higher education where they really learn a lot of the skills, background knowledge, and so on and so forth, theory. And then they go out into the working world. Young people go out into the working world, and then there's a reality where they have to apply a lot of the things, both in terms of mindsets and skills and knowledge and so on and so forth. Tera, what do you think is important to teach young people in the K-12 environment, education environment, to prepare them for such programs, and in general for business, in the world of business?
I loved this question when I saw it, but I think the Belief program does a really good job, obviously, doing higher education, but starting while children are still developing is pretty detrimental to growing up understanding ethical dilemmas. I think something that's important is to make sure that kids understand, especially in those younger years, to follow your gut. And sometimes even introducing some of these tests that Amy talked about earlier, like the mom and dad test. We've all done something stupid in our childhood, but would your parents approve of this? This is a question that even in young ages you can ask yourself and see if you're doing the right thing. And also the how does it make me feel test. Even in kindergarten, first grade, that's something that you can ask those children and see how those things make them feel so they can understand those feelings and understand when they're doing something incorrectly. And also just introducing some resources. I know when I was little, I was scared to walk up to the teacher's desk and tell her something. So maybe providing the opportunity to submit an anonymous letter or to submit something anonymous so that they aren't put on the spot when they have to go up and ask the teacher something or tell them that someone was cheating on the test. So kind of introducing at a low level and increasing as those children are developing through 12th grade before they get into higher education. I think that would better prepare them for the business world and especially going into that higher education if they choose to. But also if they don't choose to go into higher education, we want to have that fundamental, that core of ethics, ethical responsibility, even if they don't go into that. So I think going into the kindergarten through 12th grade is very, very important for understanding what is right and what is wrong.
I'm just going to go a little bit off and interject a couple more questions. We have a little bit of time. So Amy, you mentioned earlier that there's a 12-step process, or sorry, 7-step process. Is that right? 7-step process that you teach in your belief program to your students. Do you think that this process can be taught to young kids at the K-12 level?
Yeah, actually I do, Peggy. Our decision-making guide, those 7 steps, are really based on the scientific method and just every problem-solving framework that's out there. So the students are already working through and learning the decision-making framework. It's really about having those conversations. You know, what do you think is going to happen when I do this science experiment? Well, it's the same thing with an ethical dilemma. Here are the factors. You know, you're looking through our decision-making guide. Here are the factors of this ethical dilemma. You know, age appropriate, of course. Helping them think through. You know, who are those different people that are involved, and what are the observations that you have, and you know, what are your action steps? Helping them have those conversations and talking about the different courses of action early on can help them develop, and again, iteration to build those moral courage muscles to help them develop that moral courage.
I completely agree with you. And, you know, in our school, we call it developing active conscious citizenship, so that kids learn to position themselves to make good choices in the world, but understand what the impact of their choices is. But along those lines, just a question for both of you, because Amy, you're coming from the perspective of accepting students, certain kind of students into your program, and Tera, you know, you were in an environment where you were with other students in the program. What kind of mindsets do you look for that would allow students to succeed in a program such as this? What kind of, you know, are there particular mindsets? Are there particular skills? Are there particular competencies that you look for? Who would be a great fit for a program like this?
You know, it's interesting. Tera mentioned the LEAD student organization, Leaders in Ethics and Academic Discipline. That is a student or organization that is laser focused on ethics. And the students who self-select to be members of LEAD, those are the students with the mindset coming into our program our undergraduate program that are going to be extremely successful. I talk to recruiters on a daily basis, and when they're asking, what's going to really differentiate an NIU college business student, I always tell them, if you see lead on their resume, they need an interview. Those are students who are coming in with that mindset of, how do I put voice to my values? How do I think about those 12 tests in my actions throughout my everyday? As students are with us for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, and are exposed to the Belief Decision Making Guide, if they don't come in right away as freshmen and join lead like Tera did, they're getting that exposure, and then they're self-selecting in as they're learning more and being more exposed. But really having a strong sense of, what is your purpose? What do you believe in? What are your non-negotiables? I mean, those are really key things that will lead to success at the College of Business, in the Belief program, and in the business world.
Yeah, before Tara, I get to you answer that question. It's funny because in psychology, oftentimes, a lot of the workshops, we always talk about what are the values and, the principles that are absolutely non-negotiable in your life. And, as we go through them, and people say, well, I would never, ever negotiate ABC, and then, but sometimes when you put people in particular circumstances where there are huge dilemmas, that then becomes kind of shaky. So it really does, I agree with you that it takes a lot of training, a lot of practice, inner strength to be able to say, I'm going to stick to my values and principles no matter what, and sometimes the circumstances dictate otherwise, but hopefully that's not the norm. Tara, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, with everything that Amy said, all of our members for LEAD, they are self-selected, and we have recruiting efforts, but a lot of them come to us because they're interested in what we have to offer. We not only recruit these members, but they go through an interview process as well. So we look for adaptability and we look for willingness to learn, because yes, you have the ethical fundamentals, you have your core values, but we build upon that. We host ethics events where we bring in guest speakers from the world of business, and they talk a little bit about their experiences and the education they had in the past, whether it's NIU alumni or people who just reach out to the program. We also host an ethics case competition every year where we bring in about 30 to 35 judges from the world of business as well. So these students get a really good life experience, not only from people coming in, but from people who are also alumni from NIU. So I think that being in the program honestly, it's very nice. I was in it for 4 years, and I think I learned more within that program than a lot in the classes I went through. And it's funny that Amy brought up the core values within the sales program too. During our ethics unit, we're actually asked to write down those non-negotiables, and that's something that we run through so that we know, as long as it's written down, we will not touch these values. So one of my top ones was integrity, remaining ethical within my practice, and I think that stems a lot from the program.
Do you find a ways to connect this, through internships and the real world of business out there? And do students actually have the opportunity to practice all of these things that they're learning in the program?
Yeah, I would say that students have the opportunity to practice it through the sales. I keep using that because it's the program I went through, but we are brought on many different field trips, and that's something that we're asked, is to keep up our reputation and to keep up the reputation of both NIU and the sales program. So I think that this is definitely put in place, and I think it's pushed a lot from NIU and the Belief program, especially because it's in every single class that we attend. It's in every single event. We have passport credit, and those are events that we have to attend. You have to attend so many ethics events. So I think getting that real life experience from some of those speakers is very important to college education and preparing yourself for the business world.
And here's a question for both of you here, and it's a kind of a strange question, but I want to start off by saying, With or without you. That always sounds to me like a great title for a book. With or without us on this planet, with humans or without humans, what would be better? So, with or without you, how is life and living on the planet better with programs such as the Belief program? And what do you think would happen if it didn't exist?
What our belief program does is keep us focused on ethics every day. We could very easily have one course that our students take, and then they never have to think about it again. But the Belief program is integrated into the fabric of their degree programs. They're talking about it in classes. Each fall and spring, we have a Belief Week where we load up those classes with guest speakers from business and industry who are coming in and sharing their ethical dilemmas. And I like to think that has an impact on those speakers and bringing it, to top of mind for them as they go back to work and think about, what they're doing on a daily basis. Because it's always there for 2 or 4 years for our students, we're hoping that it will continue to be there after graduation and as they get started in their careers as just that bedrock of how they do business. So what do I think would happen if it didn't exist? We would be putting out 600 graduates a year who are going into the business world not thinking about it. And that makes me scared, especially with the big issues that our world is tackling today. Ethics has to be at the forefront of every professional's mindset if we are going to make progress on any of our sustainability goals.
That I really like that, Amy. Sending students out there who would not be thinking about it and getting people to think about these things. I think that is a major step towards really understanding and figuring out how to do it differently. Tara, how about you? What do you, with or without you?
Yes. Amy, you killed that last one. You kind of covered what I thought would happen if it didn't exist. I mean, just the thought of those students being sent out without having ethics in the back of their head, it also just scares me. But I think the Belief program, especially for NIU students and those guest speakers even, is knowing their resources. I know Pam Smith, one of the founders of the Belief program, she's always been someone that I know I can reach out to. My mom also went through the program and she's about 12 years out of college, and Pam Smith is also someone that she can reach out to as well. So just knowing your resources and also bringing awareness to the topic, I think is a great way that the Belief program helps these students, especially coming out of college, and pushing them out into the business world. Just because if you don't have that in the back of your head always, then that pressure and that maybe it's the culture of your company that's more likely to get to you.
Thank you, Tara. And so business and ethics, a very interesting discussion and a very interesting combination. And I think more discussions like this need to be had. And I really hope your program grows to be, one of the leading programs in the country. But there are countries around the world listening that will be listening to this. And I'm just want to end with any final words towards, people who are thinking about business and sustainability, and how do we move in that direction? Anything you'd like to end with?
So I think the key message for me is all of our resources are available on our website. So if any listener is curious about our decision-making framework or our handbook, they can go to www.cob.niu.edu and then click the Experiences button and choose Belief. And you will find links to all of the resources available. And if there's anything that the NIU College Business can do to help advance ethics education at your institution, we are absolutely open to having those conversations.
Well, thank you, Tara, and thank you, Amy. Thank you earlier today to Balaji for this engaging in this very enlightening conversation. And I wish you all the best of luck and looking forward to talking with you again and connecting K-12 with higher education. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Peggy.
Yeah.